Alrighty, welcome back to Outlier by Lisa Beeson, Chapter 22. As they walked back downstairs, Kale texted Reed and Tuber. Starting off strong. Kale texted Reed and Tober that they were leaving, and Ari saw that Helena was still captivating everyone's attention. Royce already had his arm around another girl and was shamelessly flirting with her. Ari was already forgotten. Good. Kale went over to Helena to say that they were leaving, and she told him she wanted to stay and that she'd take a taxi home. He kissed her cheek goodbye, and then it was just him and Ari walking towards the elevator. "Have a good night, Mr. and Miss Kale," said the pretty attendee. "Would you like to cash out your chips with Veronica?" Kale took his chips out of his pocket and placed the stack on the cash-out counter in front of Veronica. "Split it between yourselves," he said with a wink, and then went over and pushed the down button. The doors slid open, and Ari had to hold back a chuckle when she saw the shocked looks on the women's faces. He had just given them $50,000 to split. "That was very generous of you," Ari complimented. "I have my moments," he said with a smirk, and they walked into the elevator. After Tober got Kale's text, he and Cam started packing up their stuff, and were just about to head down when Cam took one last look down at the street below and saw something that made him pause. There were two black-suited men with earpieces walking with a teenage kid. Cam focused in on the kid's face. No effing way. Pyro Joe? He hadn't recognized him at first. With the new clothes and haircut he was sporting, he'd know those pale blue beady eyes anywhere. Except instead of being shifty and hateful like they were before, they were now void of all emotion and predatory like a white shark. Or like a great shark. Great white shark. Oh, okay, both. Like a great white shark. While Cam stood there frozen in shock, the Suits and Pyro Joe walked into the building Kale and Ari were in. Son of a... "Tober, we got a problem. Tell Kale they're in trouble." Just as the elevator doors started to close, Kale's phone buzzed. He took it out of his pocket, looked down at the screen, and cursed. "What?" Ari asked worriedly. Kale stuck his hand out just in time to prevent the doors from closing all the way. He pushed the doors back open and quickly went to the attendee, whose shoulders slumped disappointedly, probably thinking he changed his mind about giving them the money. Leave your sisters alone." "Is there another way to get down?" he asked fiercely and quietly. She nodded and told him the way to get to the emergency stairwell. He grabbed Ari's hand and pulled her behind him as he swiftly made his way to the stairwell door. "What's going on?" Ari asked as she tried to keep up without twisting an ankle. He glanced down at her heels. Can you run in those?" "No." "Then take them off," he said as he opened the door. Ari hobbled onto the stairwell and took them off. When the door closed behind him, she could hear the click of an automatic lock. "Well, we're not going back that way." Once she had the shoes off, Kale grabbed her hand again, and they started running down the stairs. He pushed something on his phone and held it up to his ear. "Change of plans. Meet us on the south side. Proceed with caution." He hung up and put the phone back in his pocket. Ari's scalp was tingling painfully. "Kale!" she shouted, pulling her hand out of his grasp and stopping on the stairs. "What's going on?" Somehow your suits found us again." "But I didn't do anything this time." "I know, which means they were keeping better tabs on us than I thought. We'll have to go underground for a while till things cool down." Just then, the piercing sound of an alarm went off, and the stairwell was bathed in red flashing light. "Shite! That's the fire alarm." They continued to run quickly down the stairs when the doors on the different floors started banging open as the residents began flooding the stairwell. He grabbed her hand again so they wouldn't get separated in the crowd of people trying to get down to safety. Ari had to bite back the pain of having her feet trampled on as they pushed their way through and down another couple flights of stairs. Then Kale yanked her towards the door leading to the 12th floor, fighting against the flow of the crowd. Once they broke free, he led her down the hallway. What are we doing? Fire escape. Arya looked through the walls and saw an empty apartment with a fire escape that would lead down to where Reed was going to meet them. There, she said, running ahead and pointing towards the apartment door. She tried the handle, but it was locked. Out of the way, he said, shoving her to the side. He used his shoulder to bust the door practically off its hinges. Come on. She followed him into the empty apartment, and they ran over to the window that led to the fire escape. Once they were out the window, they both sifted down the stairs and jumped down to the street below, just as Reed pulled into view with an unfamiliar black Escalade following behind him. Arya was about to panic, but she saw that it was just Tober and Cam. Kale opened the back door to the Cadillac and shoved her in. Stay down, do you hear me? No matter what, keep the bloody hell out of sight, he said in a tone that brooked no argument, and then shut the door and went to the Escalade. When she heard Kale get into the other car, Reed pulled away from the curb and gunned the engine. She stayed down on the floor like Kale told her to, but looked through the back of the car so she could see what was happening behind them. As soon as they pulled onto Madison Avenue, a black sedan pulled out behind them. Crap, crap, crap. Cam and Tober must have switched places when Kale got in the car, because Cam was driving and Tober and Kale were getting guns out of the bag in the back seat. Arya didn't like not being with them and wanted to protect them somehow. She figured since the suits already knew she was there would be no reason not to amp Cam and Kale to give them the best chance they could have against them. This is Hercules, my little Hercules, my handsome guy. My handsome guy. I love my big old guy. Look at your face getting so big. Okay. She figured since the suits already knew she was there would be no reason not to amp Cam and Kale to give them the best chance they could have against them. Remembering what it felt like when she channeled her energy into Kale back at Artemir, she focused her energy and concentrated on pushing it out towards them. She was surprised when she actually saw Cam and Kale's energies getting brighter. They must have felt it too, because Cam's eyes went wide, and then he looked right at her through the back of the Cadillac and signed, "Thank you." Kale looked through their windshield at the back window of the Cadillac, making sure she was staying down. With his senses fine-tuned, Cam was easily able to tail Reed as he expertly maneuvered through the city, trying to lose the sedan. But just when Ari thought they finally succeeded, 2 more sedans came down out of his sight. Okay, and this is Spock. My boy Spock. Yes, I love this. My little Spocky boy. Yes, I love you, baby. Good boy. All right, let's try this again. But just when Ari thought they finally succeeded, 2 more sedans came out of a side street and flanked the Escalade on either side. The windows went down and they started shooting. Cam ducked his head, almost instinctively dodging a bullet as he continued to keep his eyes on the road. Kale and Tober put down their windows, lifted their weapons, and shot back at the sedans, expertly taking out their front tires and causing them to careen out of control and crash into the parked cars on either side of the street. Are you okay, lass? Reed yelled back at her as he made a sharp turn down another street. Yes, are you? I'm fine, just stay down. The sedans were gone now, but Ari saw something small in the air quickly flying up behind them. She focused in on it and saw that it was a quad-chopper attack drone. She saw the missile spark as it was just about to detach, and Ari went into autopilot. Her body was moving as if on its own. She was sifting so fast that everything froze in place as she got up and broke through the back window of the Cadillac. She could feel the breaking glass cutting her as she passed through, but she didn't care. She just kept moving forward, standing on top of the trunk. She easily leapt across the Sorry about that. Their play gets a little boisterous. She just kept moving forward, standing up on the top of the trunk. She easily leapt across the considerable space between the 2 vehicles to the hood of the SUV. You guys. Then she ran up the windshield using her sifting strength to launch herself into the air. This is a very important part of the book, and I can't see now. Yes, I love yours. Yes, I love yours. Now hop down. I hope people start subscribing and like I start getting paid or something, because otherwise, I don't know, man. I'm trying to get money here. Okay. Which I don't know if I can even do, reading other people's books. I don't know if that's even allowed. I guess we'll find out. Then she ran up the windshield using her sifting strength to launch herself into the air towards the drone hovering behind them, and leaned back, priming for a bicycle kick. She wanted to punt that thing into the stratosphere to get it as far away from Cam, Kale, and Tober as she could. As her right foot made contact with the deploying missile, her world exploded in a blindingly bright concussive blast. Let me see. I think we're just going to move straight in to the next chapter. Chapter 23. There was only pain and darkness. She didn't have a body anymore. She was just an agonizing raw nerve of every kind of pain one could imagine. It was too much. She'd go mad from it if it didn't stop soon. She distantly heard yelling and screaming, but she couldn't understand any of it. No more, she pleaded to anything that could understand her. Make the pain stop. Then she felt a soothing presence surround and cradle her, lifting her up and taking her away from the pain. Ari felt herself being pulled through a thin, slightly resistive membrane. As she came through, it was like she was leaving a heaviness behind, and then she was light and free in the darkness. She was barely conscious of Cam's voice, yelling, "No! You can't give up! Keep trying! She's not dead!" She didn't want to die, but she couldn't go back to all that pain, and the presence was so familiar and safe. It almost felt like a part of her. She knew this presence. She loved this presence with all her heart. Then it began to pull away. "No, don't leave. Please stay with me." She heard a woman's familiar voice say something in a strange language, but she understood what it meant. Always. Then Ari saw a pin of light igniting in the darkness. She felt herself forming into the semblance of what she was. Head, arms, torso, and legs. But she was so much more than what she was before. She was pure light and energy. And as she started to move forward, her light began to grow and fill up the space around her. Then a scene began to coalesce in front of her. She was walking on an alabaster floor, and there was a long bridge ahead of her leading off into the distance. And in front of the entrance to the bridge was a girl. No, it was a woman. Wait, somehow it was both. An ageless being whose inner light was so beautiful that it brought Ari to tears. As she came closer to the being, her face came into focus, and Ari knew exactly who she was. She'd seen pictures of her hanging on the walls at home every day for almost 8 years. She had their mom's facial features and blonde hair, and their dad's warm eyes and kind smile. Looking at her was like seeing them again. "Lydia?" "Hello, sister," she said with a warm smile. "I've been chosen as an emissary for you." "But how do you know me? You died before I was adopted." "Do you think that I wouldn't watch over my family? My parents love you as their own, and that makes you my family," she said lovingly. "Am I dead? That's up to you." "What does that mean?" "You've been given a chance very few souls are ever given," she said honestly. "You have been bestowed with very powerful gifts. There are many that are in need of your gifts, but because of that, you have the opportunity to return to your body. But I have to warn you, it won't be easy. Your body has been through a lot of trauma. And if I choose not to go back?" Then you will be welcome with open arms, she said with her eyes full of understanding. You don't even realize how many lives you've touched in this life. The ripples are already in motion. That presence that led me here, that was my birth mother, wasn't it? She nodded slowly. It was. You can be with her if you choose. Just walk down that bridge and she'll be waiting for you on the other side. Ari looked down the bridge that disappeared into the distance. Her birth mother was waiting for her. Feeling her presence made Ari remember how much she loved her. How could I have ever forgotten? Ari wasn't just some science experiment. She had a mother who loved her. Ari wanted to be held by her so badly. She missed her mother so much. But she hadn't called her mother. She had called her Malu. My Malu. The memory made her fall down to her knees and weep. Ari still couldn't picture her, but she knew her, and she was waiting for her at the end of that bridge. She stood up, and just when she thought her decision was made, Lydia came over and put a hand on her shoulder. Once you cross that bridge, you will remember everything. Ari looked at her hopefully, then longingly towards the bridge. All my memories would come back? It was almost too much to hope for. She'd remember her parents, where she came from, why she was here. Not only the memories of this life, but also all that came before. And once that happens, it will be too late to come back to this body. Hey! Lydia looked at her in a way that told her she had absolutely no idea how much she'd regret it if she gave up now, and it made Ari pause. Then she heard Cam's muted voice in the distance behind her, begging her to come back, screaming at her to come back. Please, Ari! Don't leave me! Cam. How could she leave Cam? He'd already lost so much. He needed her. It would be so easy to give up. She was so tired. Tired of running, tired of living in fear. But then Kale's words came back to her. Gatorade actually sounds good right now. Oh, goodness. That would be the rambunctious boys. The more you're able to choose to keep fighting and never give up, the better off everyone will be. You have the limitless potential for greatness, to make a positive difference in the lives of others. One moment. Wait. You are so loved, sister. We'll all still be waiting here for you, if you choose to go back, Lydia assured her. There are many on this plane and on others that are very interested in your progress and what you could accomplish. We believe in you. She had to go back. She wasn't done yet. People were counting on her. Ari turned away from the bridge and fell into Lydia's arms, holding on tightly, absorbing the strength she offered and preparing herself for what was to come. Pain and hardship was waiting for her, but she'd go through it if that's what needed to be done. I love you, Lydia. Thank you, she said barely above a whisper. I love you too, sister, she whispered back. Go do what you were born to do. Ari felt herself being pulled away back through the darkness, back through the membrane, and into the heaviness that swallowed her up. But instead of returning to consciousness, she came upon a backlit, illuminated door made of blue glass. Oh, goodness gracious. This is a very pivotal part in this book, don't you know? Okay, there we go. You see. Goof. Oh, yeah, goofs. Oh, silly little Muppets. Oh, silly little Muppets. Hi, baby. Oh, the goofs. Oh, the goofy goofs. My silly little... Oh, monkeys. Play quietly, please. But instead of returning to consciousness, she came upon a backlit, illuminated door made of blue glass and decorative wrought iron. Curious, she placed her hand on the handle, and the door opened up onto an impossibly green field of tall grass, billowing in the breeze. She stepped through the door, and it disappeared behind her. The field was on a flat piece of rock floating in space, and surprisingly, she was able to breathe the fresh air around her. Colorful auroras lit up the sky as they bent and rippled above her, and the majesty of the stars and galaxies slowly moving through the heavens were absolutely breathtaking. You made the right choice, little one, Absalom's voice said behind her. Ari turned around to see his familiar face smiling proudly at her. I hope so, she said. The right thing to do is very rarely the easiest. He looked around, contemplating the billowing field of tall grass, and she noticed that instead of his usual attire of a gray sweater and khaki slacks, he was wearing a hooded smock and loose-fitting pants that were made of a strange lightweight material, and his skin had copper undertones. But it was his eyes that were the greatest difference. Instead of the fathomless black they usually were, they now seemed to be luminescent, metallic silver. There should be a brook, don't you think? He asked conversationally. What? Absalom bent over and touched the ground, and right in the place he touched, a spring of crystal clear water gurgled up through the soil and quickly spread, creating a brook cutting through the grass. Ari watched as it flowed over the ledge of the rock, creating a waterfall that dissipated out into space. She turned back to Absalom, who was already contemplating another spot. He swept his hand upward like a conductor instructing his orchestra to rise in volume, and a small hill rose up from the ground covered in short, soft grass, perfect for sitting on. Then with a flourish, he produced a twig in the palm of his hand. He walked up onto the hill and planted the twig standing up straight up into the ground. He stepped back as the twig began to expand and grow into a beautifully strange sort of tree, with dark blue leaves and big purple blossoms, whose endless supply of petals blew away and swirled in the breeze and spread their heavenly scent all around them. But nothing had any radiant energy. It wasn't real. Is this your dream or my dream? Ari asked in wonder. Neither, he said as he made his way back up the small hill. Is that why you look different? She asked, following after him. He nodded. You no longer have control over my appearance, though I must say, the different colored socks were an interesting touch, he said, looking back with a twinkle in his eye. The mind is a mysterious thing, especially when it's desperately trying to make sense of things it doesn't understand. He looked past her and gestured to everything around them as he sat down on the soft grass under the tree. This is a place I created in the in-between. It is no longer possible for me to enter your dreams. My rune was damaged in the incident. Fortunately, that was the only one. You were very careless with yourself, he said in a reprimanding tone. It's not like I decided to blow myself up for the fun of it. I will do whatever it takes to protect the ones I love, she tried to explain. It's just who I am. His face was stern, but he couldn't hide the loving pride in his eyes. Were they worth it? Yes, she said resolutely. Family is always worth it. His mouth quirked up slightly in amusement, making her think he was hiding something. But like always, he wasn't going to tell her. Oh, wasn't going to tell her what it was. Then what he had said earlier finally registered in her mind. My rune was damaged. Wait, you're the one that put the runes on my head? She burst out. He nodded slowly and calmly. They were a necessary precaution to help ensure you survived to maturity. Did you know I was a Flexi? I did, he nodded again. Then why didn't you tell me? I almost killed Kale. I could have killed hundreds of people before I even realized what I was doing. I trusted that you wouldn't. It's just who you are, he said simply, throwing her words back at her. Well, then you must know me better than I do. I might. Ugh! Do you even care how insanely frustrating this is for me? She asked exasperatedly. You were obviously around when I was little. Why won't you tell me what I can't remember? It's like my life is a play and I got shoved out onto stage in the second act without knowing the script, and I don't even know what happened in the first act to give me a clue. Some things are best learned in their own time, he said definitively. Ari's shoulders slumped in defeat. She knew she would never be able to make him tell her something he didn't want to. So she resignedly sat down next to him on the hill under the tree, and she absently picked up a purple petal from the ground and rubbed between her fingers. It had a velvety texture like a rose. You actually created this place? She marveled. And the door was an invitation. I'm glad you accepted. Then a thought occurred to her, making her turn towards him aghast, and she breathed out reverently. Are you God? His eyes crinkled in amusement, and he let out a deep rolling chuckle. No, little one, I am not God. No, little one, I am not a god, he said, shaking his head. There are many little pockets in the universe between planes and realms where dreamwalkers can create. It takes a master to find those pockets. I found one for your parents to create within, and when you were old enough, you helped your parents create things in that place as well. Ari gaped at him. My parents? We could create things like you just did? She sputtered out. You still can. Try it, he said, spreading his arms out, inviting her to create something. How? The creating is the easy part. Think of what you want, and it will be. Oh, and will it to be, he said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. She let out a gust of breath as she tried to think of something. Okay, if I could do this as a toddler, I should be able to do it now. Cupping her hands together, she closed her eyes. Boy, I love you. We'll cuddle in a little bit, but you gotta get down. You gotta get down. Hey, what did I just say? Cut it out. Lord have mercy. Cupping her hands together, she closed her eyes and figured she'd start with something small. So she pictured in her mind a small, perfectly spiraled seashell. Then she opened her eyes and looked expectantly into her cupped hands to see nothing. You have a stronger will than that, he chided. Okay, so how do toddlers think? If they want something, they want it right then and there. They want it now. So she closed her hands again and pictured the seashell. This time she wanted it to be there. And she knew that when she opened her hands that it would be. Before she even opened her hands, she felt the weight of it on her palm. She glanced over at Absalom excitedly, and then opened up her hands to see the exact same seashell she imagined as a physical object. Ha! I did it, she exclaimed, holding the shell up for him to see. I created this. Very good, he said with an indulgent smile. Try something else. Now that she knew how to do it, she let her imagination run wild. Grabbing a handful of petals from the ground, she threw it up in the air, and from the cluster of petals emerged a magnificent scarlet bird, about the size of a dove, with long decorative feathers like a peacock. It flew through the air while singing a lovely melody, with its voice sounding like the soft, beautiful tone of a lone violin. Ari laughed incredulously at what she had just done. I just made a freaking bird. Well done, Absalom complimented as the bird flew around them and then perched up in one of the branches of the tree. Animals are a very complex creation. On a roll, Ari stretched out her arm and swept her hand back and forth over the view of the long grass like a paintbrush. And where her hand passed by, there was now a colorful array of wildflowers, peeking up between the blades of grass. Then, with a couple tosses of her hands, thousands of little fireflies appeared twinkling brightly all around them, in the branches of the tree, and above the field. It was so magical that she wanted to share it, and then all of a sudden a red wooden door appeared in the middle of the field. No! Absalom barked, and with a quick swish of his hand, it was gone. You're not ready for that yet. I'm sorry, I was just thinking I wanted to share what we made, and it just appeared. She didn't even know who she invited. Will is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Yours even more so. You must be cautious, he said, looking intently into her eyes. She nodded and then sat back against the trunk of the tree and took in everything they created. It was amazing. Pardon me. Absalom leaned back next to her, and they sat like that for a long time in silent companionship, enjoying the peace and beauty of the place, as Ari's bird serenaded them with beautiful melodies, the songs sounding hauntingly familiar. Then Absalom sat up and stretched his ancient yet still lumber limbs. It's time, little one. Someone is anxiously waiting for you to wake up. Thank you for letting me have this, Absalom, this calm before the storm. He looked at her in that reminiscent way he had in Adam's dream. Just remember that you're capable of so much more than you even realize. Trust in yourself and shine through the darkness. She took a deep, bracing breath and nodded soberly, wishing he wouldn't be so vague with his advice. Then he scooped up some purple petals, rubbed them between his hands, then blew the fine powder he created into her face, making her close her eyes as it enveloped her. And then the in-between world was gone. That was chapter 23. So we just did chapter 22 and 23. And I'm starting to get a headache, so I don't know if I'll go on to the next. And these little munchkins need some attention. You need some attention, you little monkey butt. My little monkey butts. You need some loving. You need some cuddling. All those. So we'll see about when I get to the next chapter. I'd like to do more. We're almost done with this book. Yes. All right, thank you. And see you next time for chapter 24. Peace.